which has basically been dispatched and dismissed to me after the years of service as well. This
Meaning
project,
it was turned over to you?
Well, it's been turned over. I don't think that the folks from the former Majestic are continuing to research it all. I really don't think that they want anything to do with it after the problems that we've had and associated problems at a couple different facilities involving, we'll say, extraneous energy emissions around the project, which have caused some damage to their equipment.
Well, to back up a tiny bit, could you tell us what is Project Lotus?
Sure. In May of 2001, we traveled to Frenchman Mountain here in Nevada to begin a real project looking for a biomarker for a possible precursor virus. It was a rather prosaic study looking for evidence for panspermia. During the course of that initial investigation, we came across some anomalous activity in some of our data sets. That anomalous activity was ultimately tracked down to very unusual electromagnetic activity associated with silicon oxides. And we have since tracked that anomalous activity to any silicon oxides present in minerals. To wit, the activity is the presence of an emission of electromagnetic bundles containing information. We are presently attempting to further define the nature of that electromagnetic anomalous activity. But we have, in fact, determined that the activity is associated with cells within the terrestrial environment, and that they have effects upon cells in our terrestrial environment, up to and including modifying the genetic material of extant cells in our environment.
Are you saying living cells?
Yes. We have, together with these electromagnetic emissions that we have defined with relative precision to date to be specific varieties of what we termed as particles. We had to call them something. They're bundles of electromagnetic material, confined discrete bundles, that we believe are possibly related to, as far back as the ancient Pavitrakas of the Hindus, subtle matter particles, which could be imparted into our environment and affect changes. Thus far, we have not observed negative changes, meaning the effects of these subtle matter particles, if you will, have not affected our environment negatively.
But you have had interruptions as a result of those particles.
Well, we've had
anomalous activity, you said.
We've had anomalous thermal emissions when too much or too little energy was imparted to the silicon oxide bearing material. We have had unusual drains of batteries around the activity, and have not defined why. But there have been two phenomena associated with Lotus that have been particularly striking to me as a biologist. We've had resets of cells which have occurred, and I say resets because I'm trying not to make it sound Frankenstein-like, where there have been heat-fixed yeast cells which have been used as offered, if you will, to this phenomenon as target cells. And upon the receipt of material of these dead heat-fixed yeast cells, we've had a restart of the cells, and we have the photographic and the...
So they've come back to life, is what you're saying, as a result of this.
There has been yes. I really don't even like using those terms. It's out of the book, off the edge of the pizza, so to speak. But we have had a restart of the cells in that location. However, the cells which have restarted from the dead cells are not the same cells, are not the same functioning cells as the precursor cells, the precursor yeast cells. We don't really know what they are.
You mean, are you saying that the cells changed and they're functioning differently after being exposed to this energy?
Yes, we started out with essentially a fungal cell, a budding yeast cell, which we heat fixed, and the result was more termed what one would normally term an animal-like cell.
Really? So it actually changed it from one thing. It actually transformed it from one thing to another.
It transformed it from one thing to another after imparting to it what we've come to call a template. There is an actual imparting of DNA to the cell. So we're receiving DNA essentially across some sort of an electromagnetic barrier through these what we call portals, these emissions of electromagnetic energy that then impart further discrete bundles of electromagnetism to our environment.
So
we're attempting to understand it. We don't understand what we are truly looking at the moment. We've not fully defined the Lotus as a system.
Okay, but are the particles, are these the Ganesh particles that are coming through?
We've defined three basic discrete varieties of particles that we have termed alpha, beta, and C-type particles. The A-type particles were nicknamed Ganesh particles, and that's what they are. They're nicknames. We had to call them something, so we called them Ganesh particles out of a historical deference, if you will, for the mover of obstacles. And we called the portals Shiva portals as an opening or a changing. These are the admission or emission centers, if you will, for these Ganesh particles. And then we have still another variety of particle, which we call Selkies, and Marcia actually named them. These are C-type particles, and they basically act as